I'm Jenny from Renew Socials, and in this tutorial we'll be making this reusable crown, not only for Christmas, birthdays, or when you just want to feel a bit royal. I'm working together with RevivOL, who promote creativity and thrift in using what would normally be thrown away, in this case scrap fabrics. Further information, please do get in touch, www.renewsocials.co.uk, or look for RevivOL on Facebook, RevivOL. There's a PDF of today's tutorial in the notes, so let's get to it. To make a reusable Christmas crown, you will need some scrap A4 paper, some fabric. You can use t-shirts, curtains, bedding, any old fabric. I just happen to have this left over from another project. Some fleece. You can use old fleece blanket, any fleece jumper, any old pieces of fleece, and some ribbon. This ribbon is actually from the inside. Ladies, you'll know about this. You know, the bits that are supposed to hang over the coat hanger but are actually really annoying. This is just 2 pieces of that. So to make your crown template, turn over your piece of A4 paper. We're going to just fold it in half lengthways, like this, and fold it in half again this way, and then half again this way. Okay, and then if you measure halfway across approximately, a point at the middle here, and make a little triangle. And then what we're going to do is cut here and here. Oh, that's a bit wonky. I'm going to even that out a bit. Okay. So now when we open that up, we will have Christmas templates. So I'm just going to pull them apart, and we're going to tape these together in the middle. So I'm use a little bit of washi tape. So what you want to do is measure this around your head to see what size you need. You want to leave some space at the back so that you can add the ribbon to tie it. So I know that I can cut off, and it'll probably be the same for you. I'm going to cut off this one and this one. You could just cut 2 off from one side, but I think it's more satisfying having that in the middle. So I'm going to cut him off, and I'm going to cut him off. Okay. Now we can get our fabric. So we're going to start with the fleece. So the fleece layer is what gives it its stability. So we're going to pop that onto the fleece like this and draw all the way around it. Very sophisticated weights. You can pin it on if you want. I'm too lazy to go find some pins. And then draw all the way around here. Now this line that we're drawing now is what we're going to be sewing. So you don't want to cut this line out. You want to cut it with a little bit of space around it. That's your seam allowance. So draw all the way around, like so. And we're going to do all the way at the bottom as well. Okay. Now we're going to cut this out. Remember to leave that extra space all around. I'm not going to bother cutting in those yet, so we'll have to do that in the end anyway. Now we lay out the fabric you want as your outside fabric. So I have just happened to have some Christmas fabric left over from another project, so we're going to use this. Now here you will need some pins. I'm going to get them. Okay, so what we're going to do is pin this onto here. So we want the right side of the fabric, so that's the fabric we want on the outside, facing up, and then this on top like this. And we're going to pin this in place. Okay, so now we're just going to roughly cut around the right scissors. Notice I've got two pairs of scissors on the go. I've got my fabric scissors and paper scissors. Never mix them up, because once you've cut paper, they're not much use on fabric. There we go. So there we have, that's ready now. What we're going to do next, we're going to add our ribbons. So these ribbons we're going to be tying here so that they tie around our heads, but they need to go on the inside of the fabric. So if we unpin that, and we want to sneak him in there. And you need to make sure you do is not sew it when you're sewing these bits, which I did when I did the practice one. So we're going to put him there, poking out, put a little pin in him, and then just check that all these bits are tucked in. Like that. Put a little pin in there, and then do exactly the same on the other side. Slip that on there. You don't have to use these ribbons, you can use anything, string, some wool. I'll tell you what are good is the ribbon you get around pyjamas. I often use them for things like this. So pin in there. And then we'll pop another pin in here. Okay, so we're going to sew all the way around this line. We want to leave a little gap to turn it the right way out. So I'm going to mark a little gap here and here. To change my mind, I'm going to mark a little gap here and here. And you'll see why in a minute. Let's go sew. Okay, so we're going to be using stitch A, which is just standard straight stitch, and we're going to use length number 3. Okay, so we're going to start with a back stitch. And then I'm going to put the needle down. I've got a fancy button. Lift up and turn so we can go all the way along this line. And we're going to sew all the way around till we come around, and we're going to stop at this point here. Did you spot my error? I didn't need to pin that little ribbon in there, did I? Because that's going to be our turning hole. Oh, but it's pinned in over there. So now we've sewn it all the way around, and it's time to cut it out. So you want to cut quite close, but don't cut the stitching. When you get to the point, you want to cut across like that, and then take a little bit from either side, and that means you'll get really sharp points. Same when you go this side, you're going to cut as close as you can to the actual point without cutting the stitches. And do that all the way along. Don't worry about these scraps, none of my scraps go to waste, as you'll see in one of my other projects. Same at these corners here, you want to cut them on a diagonal. If you do accidentally snip through the stitches, don't worry, just go back and just stitch a little bit more. My fingers, by the way, that's black pen. That's because I used the black pen on here, I'm not really dirty. Okay, so now this hole we left here, we're going to turn it through the right way. There's one of our ribbons. Boop. Okay, so we turned it through, doesn't look much like a crown. So we need to get something to poke it out. Chopsticks, absolutely perfect for this, but also I've got a really thin paintbrush. I'm going to use that just to poke out all the nice corners. See how nice and sharp that is now. And This one. Do that all the way along. Okay, we also want to poke out where the ribbon is, so it's a nice square side. It's looking better, isn't it? And then we do the same on the opening side. You want to get it in there. Because we sewed around the corner, it made a nice sharp corner. That way. And that way there. Okay. Whoops. So there we have our crown shape. Still not quite finished. What we're going to do now, tuck this end in so it's nice and flat. And then we're going to tuck the ribbon into this end. Pin in there. We're going to go back to the sewing machine. We're going to sew along this edge here, just to give that ribbon a bit more extra security, and then along this edge here, which will keep this ribbon in place, and we're going to give it a really good iron. Okay, so back into the sewing machine. And we're going to back stitch. I never sew over my pins. Some people do, that's fine. Not for me, I will definitely hit it. Back stitch here. And then do the same the other side. So these inner corners, they're pulled a little bit. If you just nice stretch them as you're ironing, I'll get those out. And here we have our finished Christmas crown. Woo! Remember, you can always use them. You can use different fabrics. You could use any fabrics you like and have them for birthdays or anything you fancy. So then all you do is pop it around your head, tighten a bow. This way they're adjustable for most sizes as well. If you're going to do them for kids, I would have a little test of the pattern to see if it fits around before you make it, and also make sure that the ribbon isn't too long, because I don't want the ribbon catching or anything. And there we are, unfinished Christmas crown. It's so cute. So yeah, that was how to make this fantastic Christmas crown. If you need any more information, you can pop over to my website, which is www.renewsocials, spelled SEWCIALS.co.uk, or down below in the notes there's a PDF of how to make this fantastic crown. Also pop over and have a look at RevivOL's Facebook page. They're doing a lot of fantastic work promoting creativity and thrift and using materials that would otherwise go to waste and, you know, not buying new when we don't need to. Thank you very much.